Hello, and welcome back to episode 3 of Aura's Observation Podcast. I am recording this on Tuesday, March 12th at 10:07 p.m., and I will probably release this on Wednesday, March the 13th. Okay, today I'm going to start off and talk about the craziest news I've heard in a long time. Aaron Rodgers, the New York Jets quarterback, who just happens to be the quarterback for my favorite team. And you know what else is a little weird? For me personally, I just tore my Achilles. And what did Aaron Rodgers just do? He also tore his Achilles. So that seems a little destined to me. Because what was I talking about? Oh, I didn't even announce the big news. Sorry. I'm sure many of you already know. RFK announced him or Jesse Ventura as two of the top choices for vice president. I will get into that in just a few minutes. I'm just going to segue through the other things I will briefly talk about. I'm going to talk about the Canadian hate speech laws that are being passed to censor people on the internet, and not only do that, but they could serve a lifetime uh, lifetime sentence in prison for hate online. And just a few other things like that. Some updates on a few of the stories I covered in some prior episodes, and just a few quick headlines. I'm not going to go too deep into them. I'm just going to kind of read the headlines that I thought were kind of interesting recently. I don't think any of them are going to be ridiculously controversial, so stick around if you're interested, but just know that they aren't my words. And yes, get excited, because it starts right now. Sorry, I apologize. There was a little bit of heavy breathing in the microphone. It was a little close to my face. I am still new at this whole thing. So, today, I go into fourth period. It's a long day for me. It feels so long, I just wanted to go home. And it's newspaper period. And my teacher tells me, she says, Elliot, the New York Times just sent me an alert. Robert F. Kennedy, he wants Aaron Rodgers or Jesse Ventura as his vice president. I was like, what? I actually jumped out of my chair. I was flabbergasted, and it. I was just I was kind of excited because I love Aaron Rodgers. I mean, personally, I fuck with him all around. I like him just an all around guy. I mean, I liked him before he was a Jet, and now he is a Jet. I just he is honestly top 5 celebrities for me. I can't believe that. And I was kind of already considering going for RFK. And here's the thing, I don't really care that he doesn't have a lot of political experience. Because here's the thing, guys. All of the people that do have political experience, they don't do a very good job in politics. I mean, come on. We're in a lot of wars here. A lot of people are not very happy, and a lot of people are struggling to make ends meet. And those are the professionals. So, it doesn't seem like they're very pro-human sometimes. That's the only explanation I can think of. I just don't see a positive. And I'm being very vague here. This is just kind of a general, everyone can agree that the horrible things happening in Gaza right now are horrible, right? And stuff like that has been happening all across the Middle East and Africa and places like that. There has been genocide after genocide after genocide, and there has been war after war after war, and these people have been behind it the whole time, and you think about all of the failure in American cities, all the money that goes to waste, all the taxes that go to waste. We're just drowning in debt. And these are the professionals. So I don't give a fuck if this guy isn't already a horrible person. If he's not a horrible person going in,
He's got a better chance of being a good person coming out.
I honestly had never heard of Jesse Ventura until today, but I got a summary from a person I trust, and I fuck with him a little bit. I haven't listened to anything he says, so do not quote me on that, please. But I seem like I could lean into a way where, like, okay, maybe I will do some research on him, and I will come in with a character recap if this story proves to be credible. Because I am not confirming this. The New York Times, this is a really weird thing for Robert F. Kennedy to do. It feels very kind of unserious. But I was having a discussion, and I kind of didn't know who else RFK could pick. I mean, he was a Democrat, right? And he left. He ran independent, and he had no other choice. So you have to assume he's a Democrat, right? So the problem is that because he's kind of against the deep state and he's like, kind of got this conspiracy theory, anti vax labels put on him, they don't consider him a Democrat. So if he takes a Republican vice president, they just totally dismiss him. Because a Democrat, a blue no matter, like, they would not vote for a Republican who they think is a Republican, you know? So if that happens, then he kind of loses that whole side. And if he takes a Democrat, like a typical Democrat, then all of these people that are mad at Trump about COVID and the vaccine could, they would probably dismiss RFK. They would confirm he was a Democrat because they would not vote for a Democrat. So he's kind of in this position where it almost feels perfect that he reached out to like a decent amount of both, and then they all rejected him. And now he's going to get someone who's just kind of an ambiguous figure. Like, he's obviously like Aaron Rodgers, I'm talking about now, to clarify. He's not a politician. He's obviously got like takes that make him wildly popular on one side and wildly unpopular on the other side. And I happen to be on the side that I just love. I just eat it up, you know. So good for me, I guess. Maybe bad for RFK, but that might have solidified my vote. And keep in mind, I am 18, so I don't know. I don't have the age savvy yet, but I actually kind of like this, and I am biased. I will say, I have a New York Jets jersey in my room right now, but I don't think that this delegitimizes RFK. And again, I don't know if this story is true. I will wait until I hear Aaron Rodgers or Robert F. Kennedy. Why do I want to keep saying Ronald? That's so weird. Robert F. Kennedy. If I hear about it, I'll let you know. Next segment will start right after this little sound. Okay, so I have an extra segment that I wanted to record because in the future of this podcast, I'm going to talk about some more things that I'm going to build on. Uh, this is just a mixed media podcast. I'm going to tell some longer term stuff. Like I said, I'm going to go over some new stuff from some stuff I've talked about previously. So, if you want to follow it like a normal podcast, that'd be great for me. Uh, anyway, so something I'm going to talk about is going to critically involve the topic of central bank digital currencies. CBDC. And uh, this is a very big deal. Uh, you'll probably, I hope you have at some point seen that acronym CBDC at some point, but if you have not, a few months ago, I wrote an article explaining this. So, as I have in the past few episodes, I will read the article as a segment, uh, just to be a little more formal and argumentative and, yeah, professional and grown up. So, yeah, enjoy. Across the globe, pilot studies for a new form of currency have begun. Taking inspiration from successful decentralized digital currencies like Bitcoin, central bank digital currencies CBDCs will soon become a reality. CBDCs are not like cryptocurrencies that most people know of. They are polar opposites. CBDCs, as part of the name, will be centralized and programmable, not decentralized and public. These currencies are initially being marketed as an alternative to cash, not a replacement. But the dangers of this new currency are not being discussed by the unelected global governments campaigning for them, such as the World Economic Forum, WEF, and Bank for International Settlement, BIS. The first step in understanding CBDCs is to understand what the central bank is. Almost every major country has a central bank or reserve used to back the commercial banks which loan and store money for the people. The United States moved away from the traditional gold standard, money backed by gold, in 1971 for a fiat currency, or currency that depends on faith in the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve, also known as the Fed in the United States and most other countries, was created in 1913 after a couple of failed attempts by a group of wealthy bankers and politicians, including J.P. Morgan, Henry Davidson, Frank Vanderflip, Paul Warburg, Abraham Andrew, and Nelson Aldrich. During a secret meeting off the coast of Georgia, the Federal Reserve is actually a private institution not controlled by the government. Americans have always feared Federal uh, reserves and banks. Thomas Jefferson was quoted to say, quote, "I believe that banking institutions are more dangerous to our liberties than standing armies. If the American people ever allow private banks to control the issue of their currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, the banks and corporations that will grow up around these banks will deprive the people of all property until their children wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered." Don't cancel me for saying the word conquered. End quote. That wasn't part of the quote. Sorry, that last tiny bit. On his deathbed, Andrew Jackson said, quote, "I killed the bank," end quote, when asked his greatest accomplishment. From the creation of the Fed in 1913 to the end of the gold standard in 1971, via President Nixon, inflation rose at 309.1% rate. The rate of inflation from 1971 to 2023. It rose by an estimated 659.7% rate from 1913 to 2023. Inflation has increased an estimated rate of 3,007.8% total before the creation of the bank. $1 was worth about $31 today. So that's crazy. Imagine you had $1 and that dollar became worth $31. So in other words, you would need 31 more $1 bills. So if you only had one $1 bill when that first started, you would, if it just sat there over time and you didn't do anything with it, what you could have gotten with that $1 bill, you would need 30 more. Wow, that's crazy. Since the dollar is not backed up by a tangible commodity, the Fed can indirectly print as much money as it wants. I heard this quote by Joshua Smith, and he said, I think it was something along the lines of, "The Fed has a giant counterfeiting machine that it uses to rob the American people." I think that is an apt quote that I wish I would have had to put into this. Anyway, uh, the Fed prints money and loans it with interest to commercial banks and the government, meaning every dollar carries debt immediately. As inflation rises, money means less, driving up the need for credit cards uh, and putting money back into the bankers' pockets. Currently, the Federal Reserve, also known as the central bank, does not loan to people directly. Instead, the Fed gives money to commercial banks, which lend money directly to the individuals. With the implementation of a CBDC, the Fed will have total control over the money, which may eliminate the need for commercial banks entirely. The Fed will get all of the profits. CBDCs will also eliminate one's right to privacy, since as general manager of the BIS, Augustine Carstens says, quote, "In cash, we don't know, for example, who is using a $100 bill today, who is using a 1,000 peso bill today. A key difference with the CBDC is the central bank will have absolute control over the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central bank liability, and we will have the technology to enforce that." End quote. The central bank will not only be able to monitor all purchases, but will also have absolute control over the rules and regulation that determine the use. For example, the proceeds holding limit that has been proposed of, quote, around 3,000 to 4,000 digital euro per capita, meaning you could only have 3,000 to 4,000 spendable dollars. So, in an emergency, right, you need to go buy something big, but you're not allowed to have any emergency cash? Hmm. Hmm. I don't know about that. Uh, sorry. Uh, and while a digital euro would complement cash but not replace it, that was a quote, efforts have already been made to reduce the role of physical cash in countries such as France, which have a 1,000 cash euro transaction limit, Italy also 1,000, Greece 500, and a surprising number of others. So you can't do cash transactions of more than $500 in Greece. That's crazy. The central bank and governments are proposing that for a transaction to be private, it must not exceed 50 euros, and the individual must not spend more than 1,000 euros monthly. How is anyone going to get drugs? Um, Sorry, I got lost. Uh, and in the U.S., a CBDC would not be, or sorry, a CBDC would be identity verified and not anonymous. Those are both quotes. They're linked in my Substack. I don't have the link right now. I'm sorry. Policymakers such as the German Minister of Finance, Christian Lindner, has called for CBDCs to be, quote, programmable, leaving many fearful for the freezing of funds similar to what was seen in Canada during the Freedom Convoys. If you don't know what that was, during the COVID tyrannical lockdowns, they were a bunch of truckers that were protesting, and they froze their bank accounts, and they froze the bank accounts of people donating to them. So just remember that if you don't agree with the government, and maybe you do right now, but let's say that your arch nemesis Trump gets into office. This was happening in Canada, but, now let's say the right wing, and that was deemed unconstitutional by Canada recently. So justice still survives in this world. Anyway, I got off track. Policymakers such as the German Minister of already read that. Programmable currencies give the government or the wealthy bankers, who are not voted for, the ability to freeze, fine, or degrade the, quote, money, not quote, air quotes, they give individuals if they, for example, support an opposing political ideology, attend a protest they don't like, exceed their carbon allowance, want to buy unhealthy food, or go to a non-government approved store, or are accused of spreading misinformation on social media, an action already seen from PayPal. There's an article linked there. Discussions of preventing the spending of money have been had. Tom Mutton, a director at the Bank of England, said there have been some socially beneficial outcomes from that preventing activity, which is seen to be socially harmful in some way. Without strict definition of these socially harmful behaviors, sorry, the first part was a quote, this is me now. Without strict definition of these socially harmful behaviors, the introduction and eventual total takeover of CBDCs is the beginning of what could eventually become a social credit score system. Almost every major country is seriously discussing the implementation of technology like this soon. Full list as of 2022. It's linked. In 2022, President Biden issued an executive order calling for responsible development of digital assets. As in 2022, the New York Fed launched a 12-week pilot program. The Boston Fed has been researching the, quote, opportunities and limitations of possible technologies for CBDCs, end quote, in association with the Massachusetts Institute of Technology for multiple years, known as the Hamilton Report. The technologies in question likely include blockchain, also known as distributed ledger technology, DLT, which is used by Bitcoin and is essentially a collection of records linked with each other and stored on multiple computers. This makes the blockchain very hard to alter or program and is also protected via cryptography. There's a video linked here explaining all of that. The Hamilton report found that, quote, a disturbed ledger operating under the jurisdiction of different actors was not needed to achieve our goals, end quote. Uh, Other technologies like payment interface providers, PIP, smart contracts, and other models with varying levels of centralization are also being considered. While people may tell you that CBDCs will be good for cross border payments, inclusion for the underbanked, and it's, sorry, like un slash der bank, so unbanked, underbanked, efficiency, and various other reasons, it is impossible to deny the risks presented by CBDCs. While the current system is flawed primarily due to the actions of the Fed, handling more control to the handing more control to the central banks and governments is not the answer. CBDCs are the future, but there is still a small amount of time to force a digital constitution of rights for the people to fight to regain control of their own currencies. And this is now the end of the article. So that was the article. Um, this one, I have seen some stuff about Bitcoin maybe failing because people, maybe Wall Street's getting involved with that. Unfortunately, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I've been put on to this proposition uh, of by Michael Rechtenwald about competing currencies. And in my mind, that would be a lot of different Bitcoin esque coins, currencies type things. I wish they would be tangible. You know, if we could go back to gold, silver, whatever like that, where, you know, the people kind of decided their value. And obviously that would be so hard to do for like stores. So I feel like digital is the wave. So while I'm talking about all of the um, while I'm talking about all of the dangers, let's say, of the CBDCs and the digital ID and all that, like I just think that it's dangerous that government is doing it, you know. Uh it's one thing if like a corporation is doing that. It just goes into the question of how far can government go, right? And should our currency, right? And a lot of us as Americans are very programmed, not even just Americans, a lot of us as just humans of this century are very programmed. Fiat currency is just the normal, right? It's just how it is, right? But we have no control over how much value that really is. You know, it kind of gets dictated by other people. So the intriguing thing about competing currencies is it kind of depends on how much the people buy into them. So you're not affected by the actions of the Federal Reserve when they print money to fund their wars, to launder it back into their pockets. Who knows what else? They're doing some shit that just I can't understand. Um, so keep your mind open to wild possibilities that are a little wacky at first, but give them some thought and do a little research. Do some like visualization.
It helps when you like look at all of the different cryptocurrencies right now and you kind of understand the way they work. And from my understanding, Bitcoin is the only true cryptocurrency, and maybe it's not.
I'm not really sure. I'm not a crypto expert, so don't take my word on it. Don't invest because of me. Do your own research, please. Anyway, next segment after the sound. See ya.
From
Hey, welcome to the third segment of episode 3. So this is kind of the golden segment of this episode, if you speak in terms like that. And this is going to be one of the last golden segments ever on this show as we continue to progress every single day. In this third segment on today's show, I am going to talk about the new hate speech laws being seen in Canada. That's the newest one in the currentest event. And then we're going to talk about some other, free speech, internet censorship type of laws here. So, just this week, the week of March 12th, the Canadian government just passed a bill known as C6. I think it's also known as something about hate and speech like that. But it's officially known as Bill C6. And it says that everyone who commits an offense under this act is guilty of an indictable offense and liable to imprisonment for life. And this bill is about hate speech online. So here I have some quotes from the bill. C6 bill allows someone to make a complaint of a discrimination anonymously. If that hateful complaint is found legit, a maximum of 20,000 Canadian dollars goes to that person. So we're like increasing, we're incentivizing snitching, and we are pitting citizens against each other. We are paying them to kind of, report each other. So now we have in Canada a new form of citizen police, essentially. And here I'm going to read a few more just excerpts from this bill before I really go into some commentary. And I do have a lot to say about this, so be ready for that in just a second. So first, we're going to use what the definition of hate in this bill is. So here, hatred means the emotion that involves disdain or vilification and that is stronger than disdain or dislike, right? So if I'm going to serve a lifelong prison sentence, I would hope that it would be a little more defined here. An emotion that involves detestation or vilification and that is stronger than disdain or dislike. What does that mean? So, for instance, let's say in school, right, your kid is shown some picture of something that you find offensive. And then you tweet about it. You're like, oh, wow, I can't believe that my kid was shown, something about, like a transgender surgery or something like that. Something controversial that a lot of people have a problem with. If you tweet out, oh, man, I really don't like that my kid's school is pushing this agenda, you could serve a lifetime in prison. So the offense motivated by hatred, this is another excerpt here. Everyone who commits offense under this act or any other act of parliament, if the commission of the offense is motivated by hatred based on race, national or ethnic origin, language, color, religion, sex, age, mental or physical disability, sexual orientation, or gender identity or expression, is guilty of an indictable offense and liable to imprisonment for life. So, yeah, any of those things, you just talk about this, and I any comment that you make that's motivated by hate. So how do you figure that out? If I am talking about something that happened to if I'm talking about some sort of education statistic that might show that
regardless of any kind of circumstance that might show that white children are doing better in schools on average than black children, right? That is purely statistical. There is nothing there. But a lot of people are going to view that as some sort of racist thing since there's a difference between the races there. Is that motivated by hatred? Could I serve a life prison sentence for what I say on the internet? That seems very, very dystopian and scary. And yeah, I mean, we kind of knew Canada was going down the drain, and that they were doing some scary stuff. I don't know if you guys know this, but in Canada, Canadians are not allowed to see news on social media anymore. News outlets are actually blocked on Instagram and other social media for Canadians. So, um, when I'm talking about stuff like, globalism or the incoming wave of technocratic, authoritative tyranny coming from, these globalists, uh, and these dystopian situations that just sound so crazy, this is what I'm talking about. It's stuff like this that really just scares the shit out of me. Um, because it's things like this that are literally threatening to put people in jail, and the government gets to decide what that is, and yeah, you don't get to say whatever you want anymore. Uh, it isn't even a social punishment at this person. It's uh, an interpretation, right? There's this $20,000 clause that incentivizes people to snitch on their neighbors, to spy on their neighbors potentially. Uh, and they see these money signs, they want $20,000, so they're going to create an intention for them. They're going to put words in their mouth. Oh, going back to my example from earlier, this white versus black. I don't know if this is a real statistic, by the way. I'm just making this up off the top of my head. Um, this statistic, a number, right? I just shared this number, wanted to talk about it. Maybe I'm even talking about it. Oh, wow, we need to increase funding towards black neighborhoods to get them better schools because look at this huge gap here, right? If I don't explicitly say that, could this person say, oh, wow, he's trying to say that white people are better than black people and that's hate motivated? Do I have to spend my life in prison? Hmm. A little scary there. So, some other hate speech and thought crime acts that are being passed across the globe right now. In Scotland, they have new hate speech laws coming into effect on April 1st. In Ireland, those deemed in possession of hateful content can be jailed or fined. In Holland, a politician just received a 1-year suspension for sharing an offensive meme. I'm going to go a little deeper to that in just 1 second here. And in the UK and America, from my understanding as well, uh, both separately prosecute more people each year than Russia for social media content. Um, so yes, we are Russia, the big bad guys. All the people on the left hate Putin. Most people in general hate Putin. But yes, we prosecute more people for what they say on social media. In the supposedly free and free speech countries of the Western world that are now totally falling apart and abandoning the values which they were founded on. And no, I do not mean slavery or anything racist like that. I mean freedom for all people. And even if in the beginning of this country those people were not free, they became free. And that is because there is a there was this real sense of being an American. And I feel like me and my generation kind of missed out on all of that because all we hear every single day is how much everyone hates everyone else. We are not one country anymore. We are literally divided 50-50. I mean, you look at the Senate and the House and the voting on the presidency, it is 50-50 almost exactly. So yeah, we are two halves in this country. And we cannot agree on anything because we don't try to agree on anything anymore. Anyway, sorry for that little rant. We're going to talk about the Belgian political activist. Also, he was a member of parliament who is going to spend a year in prison for hateful and racist speech, allegedly from memes that were in a private chat. So yes, you can go to jail for things that you say in a private text message. And get this. So in this case, right, this case went on for a while, from my understanding. He says that the years-long investigation, this is a quote from, let me tell you this guy's name. His name is Dries van Lagenhove, something along the lines of that. I'm sure it is pronounced better in the Belgian language. Flemish, I think Flemish language is what you say there. Um, the years-long investigation on which the Justice Department wasted millions of euros of taxpayers' money shows that the SNV activists, SNV is it's the party he's a part of. It's the Schild and Verden party, and it's basically a youth movement. It's a Flemish nationalist youth movement, so of course there's going to be a lot of calls saying that they're this far right, and that's essentially what this is trying to do, from my understanding here. They are trying to demonize the leader of this youth populist party for memes that were shared in a private group chat 7 years ago. And get this, he did not even share the memes. He is going to jail for simply being in a private group chat where these memes were sent. He is going to spend a year in prison and was fined 16,000 euros. He was also fined 6,000 more, and then 10,000 in compensation and 10 years of loss of civil rights, which means he's no longer allowed to participate in politics. And this party was supposed to win in Belgium in these elections. So they are straight up, going in these politically motivated cases to literally put their political opponents in jail. And in the West, we have been screaming about Alexei Navalny. I haven't been, because he is a Nazi, and he says some really, really horrible things. And yes, he might have been in opposition to Putin, but does that mean he's better than Putin? We don't know. We don't live in Russia. And a lot of people, I guarantee you, could not say one issue that Alexei Navalny stood on. But they're still going to sit here and cry about his murder, which turns out to be a blood clot. So, I mean, the truth is that, yeah, I mean, you can interpret this for yourself. I'm not going to really, I don't know. He says here in a quote that in a Facebook group with 900 activists and a Discord chat with many hundreds of users, and in one of the groups someone said, "Post your edgiest meme." The edgy memes mentioned above were posted to this thread, a thread which I did not participate in. So he wasn't even part of this conversation. These are other people that were saying, "Oh, post your edgiest meme," right? And sure, racist memes are racist memes, whatever. To me, I know people who find racist memes funny, and that doesn't necessarily, to me, mean that they are racist. And that might be an unpopular opinion, that might be an obscenely hot take. I don't know. That's for you to judge. But to me, comedy is about that. It's about things that make you uncomfortable, right? And I think that memes and actions are other thing. If you're out here saying, "Oh, let's go fucking kill people because we're racist," that's obviously racist. And even if you say that, if you say in your own words, "Oh yeah, let's go do this racist thing," that's different. But posting an edgy meme, a racist meme, those exist. They're all over the place, and a lot of people find them funny. I guarantee you that every single person listening to this knows multiple people who would probably laugh at some of these. So sure, is racism bad? Yes, racism is bad. But for a racist meme, for a political leader who didn't even share a racist meme, to spend a year in prison is just absolutely insane. It is just absolutely insane. And this sets a horribly dangerous precedent across Europe and across the EU. And obviously in Canada, all of the stuff I was just explaining. And it goes deeper. I could keep talking about this forever and ever and ever. And in tomorrow's episode, I'm going to talk about how this is happening in America. Because if you guys remember from a few days ago, I was talking about TikTok and its potential banning. And as I'm recording this actually on March 13th. So I recorded the first few segments last night after work. I had a long day yesterday of school and work, so I didn't have time to record the full podcast because I needed to go to sleep and wake up for school today. but I'm recording this today when TikTok was actually banned. It was voted on today in the United States, and it is going a lot further than just banning TikTok, and I will explain that tomorrow. So please stay tuned for tomorrow if you are interested in this. And I'm sure if you're an active news reader or X user, that you will have definitely seen a lot of the stuff I'm talking about regarding TikTok already. So be ready for tomorrow's segment. Big things are coming. Thank you for listening to this one, and right after the sound, you'll hear my voice again. Okay, so I'm going to just give you some really quick updates on some stories that I've talked about in the last few days. Obviously, big update with Robert F. Kennedy and his vice presidency announcement. And he said that he is officially going to announce his running mate on March 26th, 2024, and that his vice presidential running mate has already confirmed that he or she, whoever this person is, has already confirmed and accepted the position. So, someone already knows who Robert F. Kennedy's vice president will be, and that will definitely be the first thing that I talk about as soon as that happens. So be ready for March 27th when I will talk more about that. I wanted to say I saw this interesting headline. The Boeing conspiracy is designed to centralize air travel under government control as per the Communist Manifesto. This may go over the heads of some. The rest will get it later. And this is from Hotep Jesus, Hotep Jesus, at Hotep Jesus on X. So, this is kind of like what I think Amtrak, from my understanding, was, they're trying to nationalize and centralize control. And this goes right into the Great Reset, the Great Travel Reset, the containment of citizens where they control travel, right? Obviously, if they control the airlines, that is another aspect of our world that is no longer privatized and resistant from government control. They are taking as much as they as much as they can get. Yes, do not let this happen. Please do not let this happen. Let's see some other updates. From my understanding, I honestly haven't seen a lot about it, but I did see that Haiti's prime minister that I was talking about the other day resigned finally, and barbecue is now the official pseudo leader of Haiti, and that from my understanding there's going to be a commission, some sort of temporary government that goes in place of Ariel Henry, and they're going to kind of stave the way, but barbecue obviously is the guy there, so I think he's going to have a lot of power. I don't think I have any other updates on previous stories that are very urgent or super important, so I'm going to get into the last segment of this episode today, which is just going to be some quick headlines that I have observed over the last few days. So be back after the sound. Okay, welcome back. Here is the final segment, and this is kind of a newer segment I'm trying out, which is just some headlines. I'm just going to read you some posts that I've seen that I find interesting. So, first off, in Britain, they have banned puberty blockers for children seeking gender treatments. And this is from Alex Barnicoat at Mr. Barnicoat on X, Barnicoat. Mr. Barnicoat. This comes after a new study from the NHS found that 36% of kids who use puberty blockers experienced a major decline in their mental and physical health. And then following this trend, this might be... See, this is what I'm talking about. This is a great example right here of a headline. Could I serve a lifetime prison sentence for saying this? California study, attempted suicide rate among men who had gender surgery was twice as high as it was before the operation. And this is from Benjamin Ryan at Ben Ryan Writer. And he is a health and science reporter and contributor at the New York Times, NBC News, and The Guardian. He says that study finds the attempted suicide rate among transgender women, men who previously were men become women, who have received a vaginoplastis who have cut off their penis and had uh, a vagina put in place in California was twice as high during the period after the surgery was compared with the period before the surgery. The investigators analyzed data on all 868 people who received a vaginoplasty and 357 people who received a phalloplasty in California from 2012 to 2018, and there was an average of 2 years of data before and after the surgery. A total of 22% of the vaginoplasticity group and 21% of the phalloplasty group had at least one ER or inpatient psych encounter during the study period, whether before or after the surgery. If there was a psych encounter prior to the surgery, 34% of the vaginoplasty group and 27% of the phalloplasty group had a psych encounter after the surgery. Among those receiving a vaginoplasty, the rate of suicide attempts was twice as high after the surgery at 3.3% compared with before at 1.5. So obviously that's not a huge percentage jump, but it is more than double of the rate. That is the number here. So am I transphobic for sharing this study with real statistics? Will I serve a life in prison? Not yet, because I am not in Canada. But if I was in Canada, someone could make $20,000. So if I ever move to Canada, bookmark this so that you can make $20,000 by snitching on me, please. And the phalloplasty suicide attempt rate was similar to the general population, while the vaginoplasty group's rate was more than twice as high as the general population. So they were more than twice as high as just the rest of people. And you can argue, whatever sort of could just be, obviously if there's, you think you're a different gender, there's probably something happening in your brain. It used to be recognized as gender dysmorphia, which was recognized as a mental condition. So, yes, obviously there definitely could be there definitely could be a conflicting condition. It doesn't have to be just because of the surgery. But yes, please look into this yourself. See that I am not lying to you. Go to Ben Ryan Writer on X, or you can look at notthebee.com. That's where I am finding some of this good analysis. Obviously, not the Bee, meaning it is not the Babylon Bee. So it is not fake news. And you can look at the study yourself from the AUA journals, the American Urological Association. And the study is titled MPO4-20, Rates of Psychiatric Emergencies Before and After Gender-Affirming Surgery. There are multiple names on this. They are all linked with other stuff they have written, so please go see to yourself the accuracy and judge for yourself if you want to trust this. Another headline I have from March 12th, not that it happened on March 12th, but that I saw it on March 12th. FDA grants new LSD drug breakthrough therapy status for generalized anxiety disorder. MM120 is another psychedelic compound getting fast-tracked by the FDA for treatment of common mental health conditions. But what's the difference between LSD and MM120? So yes, this is a LSD-like substance. MM120 is a breakthrough therapy for generalized anxiety disorder. There have been a few studies, and the FDA just pushed this through. So this follows in with some very important therapeutic legalizations of psilocybin and MDMA. And this one is going to, it's the LSD that is getting legalized. It is a tartrate salt form of lysergide, a synthetic drug commonly known as LSD. So it's still a lysergic acid, but it is a tartrate salt form. So just a little different. And they say this is because LSD is difficult to manufacture with high purity and tends to degrade quickly in the presence of light and water. We're manufacturing it to pharmaceutical industry standards as a high pure version that's also shelf stable. So there's that big difference. So it's just trying to be more pure, last on the shelves longer. Um, yeah, I mean, obviously there's some historic ties and feelings about psychedelics and LSD. So it is a little good for those older people that LSD is not the official name of this. It'll make it a little less um, surprising and outrageous to some people who might be against the use of psychedelics in therapeutic situations. Also, there was I'm Donald Trump's daughter-in-law just went in and just gutted the RNC. They are just totally remaking the Republican Party. I think there was some due change because the Republican Party it's a new party. I am surprised that the neocons that are still in power from the Republican Party are still there, to be totally honest, because I think that the Republican Party is having a realignment and an awakening, and it is changing. It is becoming the party of Trump, and it is becoming the America First party. So yeah, he's trying to remake the party in his image, and if he has the power to do that and the influence to do that, why not? Who wouldn't do that in that situation? That's all I have to say about that. I obviously am not a Republican, so I do not really care what Donald Trump is doing to the RNC. I don't like the RNC, and I think that the Republicans have failed on basically everything they have said that they were going to do, and I also obviously am not a fan of any Democrat. So that is my opinion on that. I do not have any bias, probably. Maybe I have. Everyone has a little bias, but yeah, I do not have a lot to say about that. Also, the House Select Committee has settled on a claim, but the January 6th transcript that has been released shows a different story than the claim. And this is saying that, from my understanding, Donald Trump wanted to send 10,000 National Guard troops to help defend the Capitol, but the claim is that he never did this, right? He never offered 10,000 National Guard troops to help secure it. This new transcript is saying that he did. I also saw that there was a report saying that Donald Trump lunged at the wheel of his car, like he was being driven, and he wanted to go to the Capitol, so he was trying to take the steering wheel away from the Secret Service. And the Secret Service member who that supposedly happened to says it never did. So there was another lie in the January 6th cover-up and the January 6th lies that they're trying to tell you. So that is a report from the Epoch Times. It is a video, so I don't have a lot to quote from that directly, but there's a lot of... if this is the first time you've ever heard about any of this, I suggest going to look at the Epoch Times. They have a lot of resources about January 6th and all the stuff that happened. They are doing their own thing over there. There has also been some talk of bank runs recently. Bank closures. U.S. Bank closes 23 branches in a week, and that was published on... when was this published? Wow, what an article that doesn't have a very obvious publishing date. Recently, at the very least. It was recently closed, but they have closed 23 branches in a single week, and JP Morgan alone announces it's going to shut 18 banks down in California, just in California. So 18 of those are out. I'm pretty sure I saw something in New York about, I want to say 60 billion being, let's fact check this on live air, taken out of New York banks. So obviously that is a lot of money if that's true, 60 billion. Here's an article from the AP, just a headline. U.S. government moves to stop potential banking crisis. So we're aware that it's happening. New York Fed adds 60 billion to financial markets, so the inflation's going up. There's not going to mean anything. I am not seeing this. I did hear something about people taking a lot of money out of banks the other day, and I'm pretty sure I heard that from Kirk Elliott. and he is warning of a lot of these regional bank runs. He he has a lot to say. I suggest to go and find an interview with Kirk Elliott. He is a lot more informed on this issue than I am. I am just putting this out into everyone's mind. If they have not heard, bank runs are coming. They are coming. It is not sustainable what we're doing. So protect yourself. Be aware. Move your money out of the banks before it's too late. Yes, I will see everyone tomorrow. Thank you for listening to Orr's Observation, Episode 3. I'm excited for tomorrow's. There is going to be some good stuff to talk about.